Hello again, YouTube. I was going to do some painting today, but found out that my airbrush is all clogged up. I can't really pull that back, just because I didn't really clean it the last time. I tend to just do this. I tend to every now and then just methodically clean the whole airbrush, and I figured I might as well record it and just so people know what I do. Maybe if they've got an airbrush and you're not sure how to clean it yourself, or you're just a bit scared you might take it apart and not be able to put it together again, this might demystify it. Obviously different airbrushes have different assemblies and all of that. This is a Evolution by Hardner and Steinbeck. So if you have this one, you know, you can just follow along. If not, pretty much they're very similar. But first things first, I need to disconnect that. Don't need air going into the airbrush at the moment. So the needle won't move back and forth, so it's clogged at this end. Which so a good tip here is if you just take off the front of the end very carefully, like so, and you've got to be mindful of that needle at the front. You do not want to stab yourself. Do this, and then you can do that. And hopefully that should help you pull the needle out. And as you can see, I think there's a lot of crud, dried paint and other nasties all over that, which we need to clean off. So put that to one side for the time being. So this is the front part of my airbrush. It has this, which is the needle, the nozzle for the needle, and it has this little washer, so be careful. Put that aside because the kind of cleaning solutions I'm going to use could sort of damage this, so you don't want to lose it, but you also don't want to cover it in, you know, all these really strong cleaners, because you might ruin it and you'll need a new one. So put that there. This part that it fits into, there's some paint around that seal there. Usually that's not a problem. Every now and then I'll actually take that rubber washer off and go through and clean this properly around the threads and stuff, but at the moment it's fine. And usually nothing really ever gets inside this part, as far as I can tell, inside, so you're all good. But the thing that does need cleaning is the front. Now this is actually two pieces, so you can actually turn this to get it off, but it's quite hard to do. But as a tip, grab the needle, just thread it through two of these holes here at the thick end, and you should be able to get a better purchase to turn. And if not, like I'm finding there, it's not a big deal. You can still clean it all out. So I'll leave it. I think I must have over tightened it last time. It's not that important. But we can clean out this as well. The cleaner this is, the the longer it's going to be before paint starts to build up again. If this is all covered in paint, it just sort of seems to promote more paint build up when you're using the airbrush, and then you have to clean it more. See, I'm just scratching some of the paint off there. Anyway, let's put that to one side. Now, recently, when I usually airbrush, I'll do quick cleanings, you know, especially between changing colours. And what happens is this mechanism, this thing here, can become very stiff to the point where you'll press it in and it won't come back out on its own, or it'll be delayed. So you'll be shooting air out. You let go and the air still comes, and it's pretty bad. And what that is I'll show you now. There's paint built up all around that part. So I'm going to take the back mechanism off, which is this heavy piece of metal here, a spring which gives you the spring action, and this part. There's already, I can see paint here built up around it on this. That's going to need to come off. Now that you've done that, you can pull this little device out, and usually it's paint inside this hole here. This is the thing that grabs the needle and moves it, and that's one of the main culprits I find of it sticking. And then also, you see inside there's some, it's not pristine, basically. It needs cleaning inside there as well. Next thing, you can undo this. Now this is actually two parts. Sometimes when I'm trying to unscrew this, I'll unscrew this part, which is the part of the quick release, which was a separate part to this airbrush. But you know, there we go, taking it off. So this is where the valve is for the air. So when you push down, it lets air out, and the air comes out through this tiny hole here. You can actually take this assembly apart even more, but I don't think I need to. As long as I'm just testing this, I'm pressing it in, and it's responding nicely. So the problem with it getting stuck isn't on this, so I can put that to one side as well. You see on the inside, so it's nice and clean there, but from the top it's not. In fact, it's just cruddy all the way through the airbrush. You can just about see through there. And finally, one thing I can do is I can unscrew this, so it just makes it a bit easier to clean this cup, because this is a bit nasty as well. And yeah, that's it pretty much. That's the airbrush taken apart nearly entirely, but not quite. Enough that I can do a good job cleaning it. So, first things first, let's see. Let's clean probably one of the most important parts to clean, which is the nozzle. I have a special tool for this, so I recommend anyone who's got an airbrush who hasn't got one of these to get one. This is a reamer. It's a very sharp, pointy, triangular cone thingy, as you can see. Designed specifically for this. You just put it in there. Oh yeah, there's definitely paint built up in there, I can feel it. Give it a twirl. See that? It's a lot of paint for a tiny nozzle. And then you can look through it and you can just about see through. So you might have to go back and forth a little time, just do this. I tend to do this first to try and get most of the main things. Now there's probably some dry paint in there as well. So that's where something like this, little pipe cleaner thing, or one of these ones, they're the same size, as long as it's thin enough to get inside this nozzle, comes in handy. Now for cleaning, I tend to use isopropyl alcohol, which is what I've got in here. There's a tiny bit left. Or if I really want to give it a good clean, I use cellulose thinners, or lacquer thinners in the US. This stuff stinks and it's really bad for you, but it gets the job done much quicker than the isopropyl. So I'm going to use this, because it really just eats through acrylic paint really well. So I've opened it to the side here, and I'm just literally going to dip the pipe cleaner in. Yeah, this pongs. So don't smell it. Well ventilated areas, guys. Open your windows. Anyway, so I'm just going to put that in there, and I'm just going to work this back and forth, try and loosen any dry paint that might be round the inside. Give it a spin as well. See, the thing is, there's actually some built up paint on that brush, so anyway, I'm just going to dry this off. See, there's paint all around here now. Tell you what, let's use one of these. This one doesn't have as much paint already on the brush. There we go. And then go in with the reamer, give it a spin, check that there's no more paint coming off. And as long as you can see through it, you can pretty much just get it up to a strong light, look up it, and you can usually see a tiny dot of light through it, and you can rotate it, and usually you should be good to go. Just remember, this is the part of the airbrush that gets clogged with paint, and it makes it so that you'll be using your airbrush, it'll be fine 1 minute, and then you change colours, you do a bit of a rinse out and a cleaner, and it just gets progressively, your airbrush gets less responsive, doesn't spray as well. It's because of this getting full of dry paint. That's one of the downsides of airbrushing with acrylics, is that acrylics dry fast. Sometimes it's good to mix drying retarder in with your paint to try and prolong the amount of time acrylics can sit around and still be liquid. Anyway, so that's done, so I'm just going to pop the washer back on for the time being, put it to the side. Now this piece here, this needs a good clean. So I'm going to grab, in fact what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this tool here, which is just a metal rod, and I'm going to go in and just basically use this to scrape off as much dry paint as I can in each of these little holes. So I tend to enjoy doing this from time to time. You know, I wouldn't want to do this every time, and usually if you're using your airbrush quite regularly, you don't need to do this because you're cleaning it sort of as you go. But every now and then it's good to just do this. But I find it quite relaxing. It's kind of like therapeutic. And then afterwards you've got a nice clean happy airbrush ready to be clogged up with paint with your next paint job. Now what I would like to get at some point is a ultrasonic bath, so I can basically give a once over like this, you know, clean as much as I can off, and then just dunk all the components in a bath of cleaning solution of some kind, and then just let the ultrasound get all the little tricky little bits off and give it a really good clean. But until then I've got to do it the hard way. There we go. So that's gotten a lot of the nasties off, or at least started to get them off. Next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get cotton bud, dip it in the cellulose thinners, just put it in the inside there and give it a twirl. That should get rid of a lot of, this should basically clean the inside up. You see, look at all that paint that's come off there. Just going to run it around the outside a bit. Let's use the other end. Should probably do this with gloves on, latex gloves, especially if you've got sensitive skin. I tend to not bother and suffer the consequences. So there we go. Then if you really want to get clean on this, you're going to take your pipe cleaner and go into each one of these and basically just repeat what we were doing before, but the brushes here should lift off the remaining paint. So if anyone's got any of their own advice or questions about cleaning the airbrush, just put them in the comments below and I'll try and reply. Especially if you've got a better way of cleaning, because I might be doing some really bad things here. For example, I'm just covering my hands in paint here. Really should use gloves, but I just don't have any at the moment, so. And yeah, that looks nice. If you sort of just get it to catch the light, you can usually see where there's dull spots, and that'll be where there's paint dried, but that's pretty clean. It's clean enough for my purposes anyway. So this sub-assembly is done. I'll put that back together. Just be careful not to lose that little white washer thing. Right, next, let's get this part. This part was a bit covered in had a bit of paint on the end, so I'm just going to wipe that off with this leftover cellulose thinners. See, I'm wondering if actually you can get like lubricant for the airbrush, you know, something I could put on these parts to sort of help them, you know, run smoothly and maybe prolong how long it takes before paint sort of starts to ruin. So if anyone knows anything about that, if you could put it in the comments below, that would be much appreciated. So I'm just running through Edge to check there's no paint built up, and I think there is, so I'm going to get the smallest pipe cleaner. Ooh, get it in there. It's a quick brush through. Cool. Call that bit done. Right, onto this bit, the trigger. I'm going to get a fresh cotton bud go. Just run it round so you lift off any of the really dry paint stuff that's basic. See all those bits there? See, this is what's I hope is what's been making my trigger sticky, because it's a pain to work with, especially if you've you've loaded up your colour cup with a nice colour. You've maybe it's a custom mix. You've just mixed it in the cup and you've got loads in there, and then you start spraying and then you find out you're getting this sticky trigger, and you kind of, if you've got like no spare pots or anything to pour that mixture back into, you're kind of stuck. You either have to waste the paint, take it apart and do all this cleaning, or you just sort of like persevere and just have to constantly deal with the fact that it's getting clogged or it's sticking, and it's kind of annoying. So that's why you've got to do this every now and then. Because it is really, really nice when you use your airbrush and it's just clean and everything just works perfectly. And you usually get a really nice session of using it after doing something like this. And you usually also don't have to clean it so much afterwards. That's interesting. There's some paint stuck in there, but I think I can unscrew this top bit, but I've never tried it, so I'm just going to leave it for now. Right, and finally get one of these brushes. Get a bigger one this time. Just get it in there. I should get rid of any nasties stuck inside there. Right. Done. Right, tricky one. Let's get this. Get another cotton bud into the cellulose thinners. Get it in between here and down in that hole. See, there's all sorts of paint and horribleness on there. Now this is the hardest part of cleaning the brush, which is where an ultrasonic cleaner would be really useful, because you could just get as much out as you can and then you can let the cleaner do the rest, and it should be able to get in here and get all these nasty bits out. Right. I'm going to be careful as well, because all these threads will chew up cotton buds, and if you're not careful you'll end up just putting lots of fibres from the cotton bud all inside the airbrush, and you do not want that, because then that's just as bad really. See, one thing you can do, if you want to, is there's a component inside here you can actually get out. Basically, if you look down there, right inside there's a part that you can unscrew, so you need to get a Phillips head screwdriver and you can put it down there and you can unscrew it, and it's like a little section about that big, and sometimes that gets really clogged, and it's a good idea to sort of try and clean that from time to time, but it's difficult to get in there. I mean, it's difficult to get in there now at the moment. I can see messy horrible paint, but it's just so difficult to get to. You know, this is where your air, sorry, not your air, your needle comes through. So I'm trying to, there's a rod here and I'm trying to push it through, and if you look in there, there's a lot of nasty paint coming out the other end here. So this is stuff this is what was trapping the needle. This paint going back up where the needle is, where it shouldn't go. I'm just gonna try and get that out with that. This is why these rods and brushes are very useful, and everyone with an airbrush should have a set of these. They get the job done. Right, that's better. You can see right through there now. A lot wider hole. But it still hasn't solved the problem of the dried up paint at the end, so I'm going to use a brush now. I'll come in through this end, and hopefully I'll be able to push it out. Right. Yep, that's helped. Cotton blood, get in there, clean up that paint. I'm just trying to make it catch the light so I can see inside. See, this nasty bit of paint. See, the longer you leave it as well to do this, the worse this can get. So, and in some ways, it's kind of, if it's really bad, it kind of makes it easy because you've got these big chunks of paint you can scrape off. But then again, it's a pain because it takes much longer to do. You get all this paint and nasties everywhere. And all that time you save with the airbrush, you make up by doing this. So all those people out there that say it's cheating if you use an airbrush, well, you don't have to spend hours cleaning your airbrush, do you? Yeah, I'm sorry this is a bit off camera at the moment. I'm trying to get a good look inside this, and there is a lot of nasty dry paint. Right. Tell you what, gonna unscrew this in here hopefully. I can show you what I was talking about before, and it might help me clean the inside. Now, from what I remember, this is meant to be much bigger, but you can see all the paint on there. Is that the only bit? So it would seem. I was sure that was much bigger. Oh well. There we go. Oh, there's a teeny tiny washer in there, so let's get that out before I ruin it. So yeah, this is just nasty, covered in paint. There's only one way to get rid of it, and that's to take it out. You can't really get to this very easily. Right then, let's get a bit of thinners on it. The paint especially likes getting clogged in the threads here. Where the screwdriver goes, sorry. Ah, it's just nasty. Big horrible bits of paint. Now, this is right by where your needle basically joins the... Your needle needs to go through this, and this is meant to help seal it from, you know, the whole back assembly and the trigger assembly. So I'm just using the reamer here to get into these edges. Yep. That's most of it. Right, let's get the tiny brush. Ooh. Ooh. Right. It's getting to the point now, I think my brushes need a clean, so I might have to just soak them in alcohol or something, or get some white spirits even to clean the brushes, because you know you're not exactly going to do a good job cleaning if you're using dirty tools. Bit of a false economy, that. Right then. See, I'm just getting my fingers covered in crap. Ah, well. Right. I think I'm gonna have to grab some more cotton buds. These ones are pretty used up. That should be okay for now. So, that also opens up inside here a bit more. Somehow paint has managed to find its way right into the bottom of this. So I'm just going to carefully get that out. I'm not completely happy with the inside of this chamber, but in all honesty this part shouldn't really affect, if there's any paint just sitting on the edges it shouldn't be a problem, because you've got to remember the needle is going right through the centre. So cleaning this part was important because this is like direct in contact with the needle, and cleaning the trigger mechanism is important, but any paint around this outside bits hopefully shouldn't interfere because it's not part of the the sort of pipeline that the air or the paint needs to go through. So anyway, so now I need to carefully somehow put this back in. So let's see, let's... Okay, tell you what, I'm just going to be daring and see if I can just drop it into... Oh, knew that would happen. Turns upside down. Okay, let's drop it in upside down and see if it turns the right way up. Nope. Come on. I just need you to drop almost in the right way. There we go. And carefully screw that back. Oh no, you know what I forgot? The washer. Silly me. Oh, this is going to make this trickier, isn't it? Now I've got to deal with that. Okay, tell you what. Let's do a balancing act. You know what, that's not going to work. Oh, it's going to have to drop it. Why is this predisposition to flip upside down? Right, cool, got it in. Now hopefully, if I'm lucky, that washer will stay inside the part whilst I tighten it. There we go, pretty much locks in place. Can I still see through? Yep. So we can see a bit of something in there, so I'm just gonna... No, not that one. So perhaps I need a new seal, that little washer thing, because that's the part that's really meant to sort of hold onto the needle to block off this back part of the airbrush. And maybe, you know, I've worn it away doing this, or cleaning it one too many times, or it's just generally at the end of its life and needs a new one. And a tighter seal will stop paint and other nasty sort of building up in this back part here. You can get a cloth soaked in isopropyl and just gently rub over if you want to polish airbrush, but to be honest, I'm handling it and paint's dripping over usually, so every time I clean it, it just gets dirty pretty much instantly, so I don't really bother too much. I only do that if I'm going to put it away for a long time, if I'm not planning on doing any painting for a while. So as far as I can tell, it's most of the parts, minus the colour cup and the needle. So the needle, easiest way I find of doing this is to just get some of your cleaning solution, whatever you're using, get it on a kitchen roll, and just do this. Just gently. So remember, you don't want to bend the tip of your needle, and you also don't want to stab yourself, so you should always brush. You should never go that way, because you'll end up just stabbing into something, either yourself or table or something, and you'll end up not only hurting yourself but also damaging the tip of the needle. Now my needle here, I think I need a new one, because I have already inadvertently bent the tip very, very slightly. It's usually not a big problem, but I'm pretty sure it's contributing to paint build up on my needle sooner than it probably should, because that little tip catches the paint flowing out, and it also redirects the flow a tiny bit. It is a tiny little bend, so I am due to get a new one. You see that when it's scraping, that's because it's the tip of the needle. You wouldn't even be able to see it, it's such a tiny thing. And I've tried to bend it back, and it's one of those things where if I do somehow manage to bend it back, it pretty much rebends again relatively easy. I do not want to accidentally break the tip off, in case that ends up being worse. I have actually got a spare needle and nozzle, but it's a bigger size. This is a 0.2mm needle, I believe, and I have a 0.41, and I haven't changed because I'm unsure whether a 0.41 will get me the sort of neat spray pattern I usually use. It's probably not a problem actually. I could probably, if I use the other needle, it'll probably work better, but oh well. I'll wait for this needle to go completely dead on me, and then I'll make the switch, see how it goes, and then probably reorder one of these. So yeah, I'm just having a bit of a closer look here. That's why it's not on camera. Just looking to see if there's any more paint along the needle. And if there isn't, then this should be fine. Right then. Finally, the colour cup. Same thing. I'm just gonna pretty much soak a bit of kitchen roll and then just get it in there and just swirl it around a bit. And that should do a good enough job. Let's get the outside as well. Still some build up I can see. So the cleaner your colour cup is, the less likely it is that new paint's gonna stick. Basically, if you've got dried up paint there, it just promotes more dried up paint, or more paint to just sort of stick to it, rather than flow down the colour cup and then into your airbrush. So cleaning that is quite important. And it's quite easy to do, especially if you're just changing colours. You can sort of rinse it out, do what I just did there, and be ready for a new colour. So is that it? That's all the bits and bobs? Right, let's put this together a bit more. So there we go, nice and tight. Let's carefully put this front nozzle back in. I have to do it like this because that washer's become a bit looser, the white washer seal thing, and it likes to come off. So hopefully, I'm just looking down the airbrush, that's fine. Now let's put the rear assembly together. So first things first, you need to put the trigger in. Make sure you get it the right way round. You want, in my case, you want this part here to be at the front, because that's where your finger is. So you want to put that in there. Now, take this part, put the spring in it, and you want this end bit to go inside the rear of that trigger assembly, like so. Take this part, which I didn't really look at but shouldn't need cleaning, thread it over, screw it in. So now you should have a trigger, springy one, but obviously it's still not attached to the needle's not going through it, so you can sort of pull it out, so be careful. Next, in fact, we'll plug this part back in. So now you should have your up and down motion. See, I'm still getting this. Can you see? It's delayed. What part is doing this? See what I mean about this? The quick release. Inside there is another threaded piece that you can unscrew and take apart. I am unsure if it is. See, that to me doesn't feel sticky. I'm really gonna have to look into this sort of lubricant. There's got to be something for airbrushes that will do the trick. There's some paint there. I wonder where that's come from. Oops. Yeah, you got to be careful using the reamer like this. You might end up bending the tip of this as well, like I just did. fixed it now. Right, okay. So I suspect this might have something to do with it. So whilst I'm here. Oh, 40 minutes, wow. Sorry for the long one, guys. Alright then, let's do it. Let's have a look inside here and see if there's anything astray with this. Right then, you have this part. This is the part that the trigger pushes against. So I'm just having a look to see if there's anything, any dry paint on here. Is there any reason why this would stick? So this sits on here. There's your spring action. That seems good. That seems good. Let's have a look down here. To be honest, I can't see any reason why this would be sticky. Perhaps it is just a case of I really need some sort of lubricant. Right then. So this part, you can actually screw this tighter or looser and it changes how this needle part behaves. So if you want your trigger, you know, to only go down so far, that is where you can make that adjustment. So obviously if I tighten this all the way to the end, you know, that has very little give. Now I want it to go a bit further than that, so I'm going to have to unscrew it a tad. A tad bit more. There you go. Put the little rubber washer in. Right. Screw the quick release valve back on. Screw this back on. Yeah. I really don't know. Ah well. It's one of those things that sometimes after I clean it I noticed it and then I leave it and then it sorts itself out. It might be something to do with moisture or something that still hasn't quite evaporated there, or not enough moisture, I don't know. In any case, finally grab the needle and very carefully insert this into the back end, and that should be a very smooth action right up to the end. Oh, and last but not least, now I love this. I love how I can just do that. Make it spin. It's a good quality build. And then finally we'll just whack on the cap there. So now, if I hook this up to the air, you can see that stickiness there. Something doesn't feel right. here. It doesn't seem to be blowing as much air out at the pressure I'd expect it to. If anyone has any ideas about what's going on, that'd be much appreciated. I think it might have something to do with this. I might not have adjusted it right. Well, this is interesting, isn't it? Meant to be showing you guys how to clean an airbrush, not how to break it. Well, it's not broken. He was doing this before. I was hoping a clean would sort it out. Just wondering if it has anything to do with this ball at the end. Like perhaps it's getting stuck. Maybe. Is that paint there that I've missed? Right then. I think I know what the problem is now. This part, when going through that hole at the bottom, that hole there, this is the part that's getting stuck. It goes, because it's fine there, but in that gap, that little hole there, it isn't. It's like it's too tight or something. Or that, more likely, I need to somehow lubricate this teeny tiny part, which I'm not sure how to do. So let's try and see if a drop of isopropyl alcohol might somehow fix the problem. Okay, a bit of trial and tribulation. We'll see if this works, and if not, I will leave it there and figure out a solution, or if anyone else has a solution that can prevent this from happening, because this does happen from time to time. Sometimes I'll clean it and it'll be perfectly fine, and other times I get all these problems. Maybe I need a bit of WD-40 in there. I wonder if it's like a heat issue. Maybe it's just too warm in the house, and it's affecting the metal. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. Are you gonna behave? Right. There we go. What's going on there? Oop, sorry. Well, it's having, see what I mean? It's not even, it's like it's stuck in the on position. Oh well, I suspect it might be something that will solve itself after a while, after all the residual cleaning fluid and what have you evaporates, I hope. And if not, if anyone's got any advice for me, that would be greatly appreciated. But other than that, there we go. Demystifying my airbrush a bit, taking it apart, and yeah. So until this airbrush starts working, I'll be waiting around until I can do the next tutorial, painting tutorial for the for these guys. I mean, I've got the other two pretty much painted now to the same standard as the first one. I just need to paint the lights, so you can see underneath as well. Just need to paint the lights. So I think next one I'll do the tanks. But as I said, I just need to wait for this airbrush problem to sort itself out, which is what usually happens. But I'd much rather know exactly why it's not why the trigger's being sticky, despite cleaning it. So if anyone has any advice for me, that'd be greatly appreciated. And until next time, take it easy guys. Bye bye.